Okay, so we've reached that time. The decals have finally arrived. To be honest, we had to wait a few days for these to turn up. But the decals are now in. Now, the reason we had to have a little bit of delay about this is because obviously the decal colour that we're talking about for this particular one is completely reversed to the normal way. As in, what are we talking about? So, down on here, as you can see, this is the decals we're using. Normally, they are darker than the colour on the light colours up here. So obviously you've got sort of a dark, almost gunship grey colour. Okay, and then when you're dealing with, where's the, you've got an upturned one. Have you got an upturned one of that one? Obviously not. Okay, forget that. Strange decal positions, but normally, as you can see, you've got this type of business where if it's the darker shade of it, they go lighter. So down in here, it's like a light gull grey colour, okay? But where it's lighter, they go darker, and that's how it is, which is great. And to be honest, this was the way I was going to do it. But Have Glass is a funny colour because actually it's somewhere in between both. It's not quite gunship grey, it's not as dark as that, but it's definitely darker than obviously light gull grey and the medium gull grey, light ghost grey and the medium grey colour that F-16s are. Because F-16s tend to have, underside is light ghost grey, and then you've sort of got the medium grey on the body areas, and then the top area up here, that sort of pattern they have, is actually gunship grey. And as I said, all the decals that have come out for this haven't got that one. Also, it's very specific, this model we're doing. There isn't too many of these around. Have Glass 5 has only been around a couple of years now, so trying to get it right was a little bit of a problem. So that's when we went out. I'm sure I'm a sheet missing. Am I not a sheet missing? I think I am. Okay, but anyway, we went out and we got these decals. Now, these are big scale Vipers. Okay, so these ones are actually from Reed Air Publications. They do decals as well, and the great thing about it is that they've got these four, I say, down the bottom here, which the great thing about this is you've got the South Carolina one, we've got the Toledo one, I do believe that one is, for the Stingers. Okay, these are okay, but both of these versions of the F-16 are actually got the Pratt & Whitney engine, which has got the totally different back end, and it's got a different intake as well, so that's not the one we can use. What we need is the block 50s, because obviously they're block either 42s or 52s. We need the one with a General Electric engine, which actually in our case, luckily for us, gives us the options of these two. And I actually really do like this particular one down here with the Bulldog on the back. Or obviously, we've got one of the Test and Evaluation Squadrons up here, which actually has that one. And then that brings us beautifully over to these decals. And as you can see, they're a lot lighter the normal ones. Okay, so you've got the Eglin one down here, which is obviously the Test Squadron, which is the Test and Evaluation Squadron. They're carrying it. Very nice loadout with that one, as you can see down on there. But actually, I really do like this one with the actual Bulldog on there, which is the Minnesota Squadron, as you can see here. And this is the one we're actually going to do. The nice thing about it as well, I like the way that it's got darker colours, obviously all over for the body, but also it's got the lighter shades for various things, and then it's got the old-fashioned shades for things like some of the pylons and stuff like that. It's a real heavy-duty mix. The other thing as well, we've got references for this particular jet as well, which is really nice at the end of the day. Okay, so from that point of view, this is the actual one we was going to go with. Now, all got a little bit interesting because when the decals all turned up, I thought that's absolutely beautiful. And don't get me wrong, these are done by Cartograph, and as you can see, I mentioned them actually on the Live at 5 show as well. They are some of the finest and best looking decals I think I've ever seen. And in theory, I would build all of these, and just the quality of them oozes, and I'll be honest, probably the best decals I've ever seen. Okay, so looking at them, these are the standard ones, and you're looking, go, yep, that's absolutely great. And then obviously I saw these, and when you look at these, I'm looking at the aircraft and I'm thinking, maybe you're thinking it too, that is extremely close. Okay, so what I tried to do earlier, I cut off the letter A here because I know which that one is, and I tried to use it, but the thing is, letter A hasn't got any carrier film and just dissolved on me, so that went awry. So then I pinched one of the stars and bars because I thought, right, we could put that back on, and I stuck it on. And as you can see on the close-up, it worked. They are a lot lighter than they look, and actually I think that is probably very close, if not akin to this little colour down here, which is actually means that the decals are all done in sort of light ghost grey. Okay, which is the underside colour, which from our point of view is great because it's going to be high contrast, and that's exactly what we wanted. So I must admit, I did have a little bit of a panic when I first got these out. I was looking at it thinking, Jesus, we're going to have to respray the entire model. We're going to have to make it darker so these look lighter. And I had visions of it looking like a brick because we've done so much work on this to give it this sort of worn, natural look that I didn't want to wreck it. You know, I don't really want to do any more to it. But I was thinking if the decals are the wrong colour, we're going to have to go with what it says. Luckily for us, it's worked an absolute treat. Now, we've done loads of videos about actually decaling and going through the motions of it, so I'm not going to bore you to death and make you sit through probably 3 or 4 hours work it's going to take me to get this thing completely decaled, because we've done it many times before. Needless to say though, these particular decals are cartograph. They go down really, really well. You're not going to need any of your usual softeners and setters and stuff like that. They should adhere well. We've stuck this guy down. Obviously, I probably will go over it with a little bit of setting solution, micro, which is this guy down in here. A little bit of micro sol just to get it to go down and everything else like that. But obviously if I come across a problem, I'll point it out to you. But honestly, this should be a very, very straightforward job on this one. So what I'm going to do now is get this thing decaled, and we'll see what we've got at the end. Okay, so as you can see, a little bit of trouble with breakup. I think that's my trouble by doing it this way. Just using cold water, it's shocking the decals just a little bit too much. What I'm going to do, we're going to boil up the kettle, get some warm water on the go, keep that nice and warm. Because it's warm, it softens the decal, less likely to break them up. So we'll be able to test that theory with these over here and then those rear ones because they're quite long as well. Generally though, I have to say, so far the decals are going down absolutely beautifully. No problems at all with them whatsoever. Extremely thin. They're reacting really well to using microsole as well. Usual thing, cartograph, they shrivel up, they look horrible, but they eat into that paintwork and they go right into those recesses. They get into all the actual panel line and the actual riveting detail and no silvering whatsoever, and that's exactly what you want for the next stage when we come through with a wash right the way over it to give it that weathered in look and things like that. So generally, switch over. I'm going to carry on now, push through with the rest of it. Get any problems, I'll get back to you. Okay, so decaling has gone down. Took a while to be honest, but it's gone down really, really well. No problems at all with it. A couple of little things I want to show you as we make our way through. So the first one is silvering. Now we know it is the sort of, we just take these off, the nemesis of doing any type of decaling work and all the rest of it. And as more kits get more, you know, modern, and obviously riveting detail gets finer, and panel lining gets more and more and more, decals are finding it harder and harder to conform into these really sharp details. In the old days, they were quite big and you could get them to go down. Now they're getting very fine. They're just having a problem getting down in there. So what are we talking about? We're talking about small little areas that you might catch it. If you move it around in the light, you see just a little bit of a sparkle. We've got a little one just down in here, things like that. So these are easy. You can just come in with a knife. Okay, and where you see the little bit of shine, okay, you just run your blade. Okay, so you can just literally cut it. Now you want to wet the decal completely dry, and then all we're going to do with these little guys is pop along and then we give them just a little pass right the way over and do it like that. The downside is if you do too many, what can happen is when you put your next coat on, it can actually move the decal, lift it, peel it off and all the rest of it. Quick little tip is actually to use a riveting tool. So if you're using a riveting tool, which to be honest is a Rosie the Riveter 1mm one, what you can actually do then is come along. So down on here we've got various little details down here. So we're just going to pop the riveting tool in and we're just going to lightly roll it around on here. Now it doesn't have to be exact, you're only piercing the film, don't push too hard, we're not trying to re-rivet or anything else like that, but we can just go along here and everywhere we get just a little bit of silvering and a little bit of, you know, something just showing through and things like that, we're just going to pop this along. Now the great thing with using a little riveting tool like this is, if you was using a knife or something else just stabbing at it, you're going to put little details in. This will be enough just to break the surface, okay, of the actual decal, and it allows the film to go in. So what you can actually do is, to be honest, we haven't actually got too many problems in here, but if you wanted to, you can just gently roll this around on top. It's going to make tiny little holes into the film everywhere, so it's going to make a complete matrix right the way over it, which allows then your setting solutions to go in, to penetrate, to do their job and everything else. Otherwise, if you were coming along with your traditional technique and you're coming in here with a knife and going through, a couple of scratches, before you know it, you've made a slice and then that slice moves and everything else. You're less likely to do it if you're using a riveting tool to wrap them around. And again, you can just literally run it right the way over like this. Okay, we've got a little bit of riveting just along this line, so we go through and we're just angling this off angle, things like that, so it's not affecting anything. Okay, and then you can just gently run it round and we're not going to have any effects on anything at all. We're hoping we're not going to have any effects, so if you've got a little bit of silvering down on things, you can just give it a run over. Now again, you know, honestly, you don't want silvering of any shape or form, but let's face it, it is something that's going to happen. So if you can just do this type of thing with no real problems or anything else like that, and I'll be honest with you, most of this stuff has gone down really very, very nicely. So we're just going to run the riveting tool anywhere we see any type of silvering, anything that's stuck underneath. And in fact, some areas you might just want to give it a gentle rub right the way over it anyway. Okay, but as long as you don't push too hard, you're not going to make any surface marks or anything else like that. So we're just checking around on these. Okay, and what we're trying to do is just either release stuff that is stuck underneath, like air, or perhaps it's even fluids and things like that, or we're just going to put our second coat on a moment and it'll be enough to get in there to be able to let it down. Once you've done that, then obviously you can give it another coat of setting solution. So in our case, obviously we're using Micro Sol, but if you wanted to, you could use something a little bit hotter. And over here we've got X20A, which we'll just pop down on the cutting mat. The brush, clean brush, we pick this up. Now, lacquer base, we're not going to worry about this at all. And then all you can do is literally just come along, put a generous lump of it right the way over. Okay. And then that way, hopefully it will all go in and stick in. And away you go. Now, if you're using something like an X20A, which is a great setting solution, the trouble with it is though, if you've got something down already, so perhaps you're using, you know, an acrylic paint, Tamiya paints for instance, you don't want to be hanging around too much. You can make a quick pass. So by it, you put a little bit on your brush, and we're assuming down in here, this has had, you know, Tamiya paint, and then all you're going to do is literally just do that and then leave it. Because it's dry, it won't automatically hydrate. It will go lighter as it is on here, but what's going to happen then, obviously, as it dries, it will go darker, and we should have no ill effects. All right. So we're just going to whip round everywhere with this stuff, because it is a little bit stronger than what we've got down here already. All right, so anywhere that we've just been over and we've given it a stab and a little bit of work, we're just going to pop this over, and then hopefully this will be the last coat that this is actually going to need, right the way over this, and then we'll be in a position just to move on as we were before. So we just put a little bit over these and everything on. Okay, and there we go. That will be it. It will take care of that absolutely beautifully. The tail system, to be honest, this one's already had a run over with the wheel. If you were watching the Live at 5 show, you would have shown me, I showed you live on here. So we're pretty good on this one. We don't really have any silvering at all, but we're just checking right the way around. Sometimes though, you might spot it here. You see this here? It's not going to be a problem because we can actually sand that out with one of our little weathering sticks here, but that's where we had it and it pulled up. And if you might remember, if you watched me live at 5, I said, don't let it sit and pull up. If it is, just rub it round a bit and let it flow naturally, because otherwise what happens is you get a little hot spot, as I call it, just there. Got a little bit on his claw. So what we do is I'm going to wet it first, then we're just going to lightly sand it. Okay, and as you can see, we're actually going through the paint, so this is going to need a little touch up, but this is just because it's eaten its way through. So what we're going to do is just going to sand it very lightly, and then we're going to blow that in. It'll be fine because it'll look like weathering, but the thing is it's got a slight edge on it, and you can probably see it. So by just sanding it very lightly, we can just get that, and we can blow that in, a little bit of colour, and we'll be fine over that one. All right, so we just give that a little sand just like that. Okay, not so much a problem. To be honest, all that is making it a shiny spot, as you can probably see there, rather than anything else. All right, so again, just looking around on here, take care of anything that's a little bit shiny. And then if you wanted to, you can actually dull down the decal by sanding it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand half the decal so you can see the difference. So you don't have to go over this with a flat coat, but I think it's going to help it. But hopefully you can see that if I catch him in the light, I don't think it's going to work too well under studio lights like this, but hopefully you can see how it's not quite this back one here. I don't think it's going to really show it on here very well, but generally this area at the front is a lot flatter than the back one. But what we are going to do is going to overcoat this. So for overcoating it, what we're going to do is take the Have Glass, which is technically the top coat for this particular colour before we come in with the washes and things like that. But what we are going to do is going to put a bit of super matte over it. I'm thinking when I've done testing, this stuff is just a little bit too strong with this sort of Have Glass effect. It's got a fleck into it, it's like metallic. And when I did it in testing, I just found it too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a 50-50 mix of both of these colours. So we've got 127 and 278. Okay, it's just super matte, clear, and obviously the Have Glass matte one as well. Okay, so hopefully with two of those mixed together, we can get just that type of effect we can use. Because to be honest, we have already used it on this one down in here, and I just found it just a little bit too heavy. Once both of these coats have been applied to it, it's going to have a wash, it's going to dull it down, and then after that what's going to happen is we're going to kind of come in and sand it all back and take off all the wash. Then we can come in with some post weathering as well, so we might come in with some neat colours, we might come in with warm colours, and we're going to try and wear it all down and everything else like that. So what we'll do, we'll just move over to the spray bay, we'll have a go on this, and we'll show you how we're going to do it on this one, just to blend this all down and make it look nice, so we don't get this sort of, you know, decal areas you can see down in here or anything else like that. And also at the same time, we're going to quickly re-blow that in just to take care of that mark at the back. Okay, so here's our tail all down here. All right, so we got a little bit of a spot. We would just want to take care of that one. We're going to blend that guy in, and we got this little guy at the back. All right, so if you're going to use a polishing stick or a sander, what you want to do is just take that edge off. So we're just going to lightly rub over that, and all we're trying to do is just make sure it's flat, so when we overspray it, it's just going to blend seamlessly, so we don't actually end up with a ridge or anything else in there at all. So we can just literally sand it, don't polish it, just sand it, and that keys the surface already in. We've already done that side, and then we're going to take our paint, and to be honest, we're only going to need a tiniest little bit of this, so we'll just give this a quick wipe just in the neck area, just to make sure it's still clean. Okay, we've got our usual colours we did the entire body in. Okay, so this is that grey. In fact, it's not that grey. It's, we want, where is it? That is, we almost sprayed it with the wrong grey, which wouldn't have been a good look. That's the actual grey we want, which is the camouflage grey. Don't do it in ghost grey, otherwise we'll have completely the wrong colour. Again, big sediment problem. Good old mix up, get that stuff moving. Okay, get the white off the bottom, otherwise what happens is if you did it, it'd be really dark and you'd end up with a different colour up here totally. The other thing as well, and I don't know why, but I've got a little couple of scratch marks just on here, and this is that thing that's really nice with this paint, because normally you might be in a position where you're thinking like, oh Jesus, it's all gone horrendously wrong, and you know, we're into a thing where we're trying to clean up and fix mistakes, and we've got to mask over decals and things like that. Because this paint is literally so thin, we can get right in there without any problems at all. And as you can see, we're mixing nicely in. We've almost got all the sediment off the bottom, which that'll do. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to grab our colour, and again, we're not going to need tons here. Alright, so we're just going to put it in the cup here. Okay, we're only talking literally a couple of drops, making sure we haven't got any on there. Okay, check our flow. Air pressure's way too high, so we're just going to knock that back a bit. Okay, round and round we go. Okay. Just need to dial this the right way on the valve. Hold on. There we go. Okay. That's fine. And then we should be able to get in here. If you want, what you can do is just put your finger over the decal itself, and then when you come in here, we can just lightly, because we're very nice, low air pressure, we can just touch, blow this little area in. Okay, and it's going to look a little dark, but it will fade in. And what we're going to do, we're going to use this to our advantage, and we're just going to put in some little, well, technically it'd be maintenance type marks, so we're just going to put a little bit in here. We're just going to put a little bit around it. What we're doing is just disguising this in. Okay, and then we're just going to go over. Just like that. And then around on here. Just to touch him. And there we go. When you're catching it in the light, it shows it really bad, but once it's faded in, we should have no problems for that. And to be honest, I've got a tiny little bit where I've actually mispainted it even here, so we can get in nice and tight and close with this. So I'm just gonna tap a little bit just in this front, so you're avoiding the decal, and now we're just going round it just to take all that in, no problem at all. And then over on this side, we're just going to repeat what we've just done. Just up, just around. And to be honest, we've got a couple of little areas, just one here, and then just one in here. And again, just blend around a little bit. And this one's done it as well. It's probably a handling mark. And there we go, that's those. Catch them in the light, you can see them easily. Take them off a light, they just blend in. Alright, so just got a couple around the top here. Lovely. Okay, and that's the thing, to be honest, we can do a lot of this when we come back afterwards, so we're just doing it for the moment, just so we can see. Alright. And then don't forget, if you have got it over the decal, in a moment you can come back, sand it off of the decal, and go back and forth. Okay, it's a little bit up and downy way of doing it, but it works a treat. And that's the great thing about these new sanders, is that they don't take too much paint with them, so we won't have a problem. All right, so that's so. I'm just going to do a little bit in here. Again, it was a mispaint on my behalf, nothing to do with the the paint. I missed it. And then I think we're okay everywhere else. All right, so that one's done. So what we do, we just let that dry down a moment. And the thing is, whilst you got it here, if you have got any areas on the model you want to take care of and just blow in and fix any areas and things like that. And to be honest, on mine I noticed, if I'm just careful where we hold this because some of it's still wet, if we just take this guy off, you can see we've got these little marks here, which to be honest, I'm not even sure where they've come from. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they are sand marks or water marks or thinner marks or what they are, but whatever they are, they're nasty and a pain. So again, we've got the original colour here, so we can just literally come in and just blow them over, and that takes care of those. Never to be seen again and never mentioned of. Okay, so there's no problem with that. So again, just keep your paint handy. You can have a look around it, and at any point you can just blow in and take care. And to be honest, I forgot to do an edge, so again, quite a good opportunity for just popping in and fixing any little problems you might have on your model. This down in here, what we can do is now we'll just take that out, get as much back as we can. Okay, and then we can tip this back in, just a few drops. Okay, and that is it. Lid on, simple fix, nothing to worry about as always. Okay, so that's pretty good. So what we're going to do is just do a quick fast clean. It's not going to take tons because we're just literally in this area. So we'll just give this a bit of a wrap round. Okay, let's move him out of the way. Blow this out. You can just up the pressure a little bit just to get rid of that. Good old wipe round. Keep your airbrush clean. You know, you paid a lot of money for it, you might as well show it off, so always keep it clean, and that way you don't get any crispy bits and dry bits build up around the edges. So usual thing, we've hardly got anything coming out, and because we're going to be lacquering in a moment, or not lacquering but technically matting, just make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, so plenty of flushes until when you are doing a clean side, like here we've got a little bit of green from the mosquito project we're working on, is obviously still in here somewhere. So what we're doing, we'll get a clean bit of tissue, blow through, and we want it to be clear at the end of the pole. So the last bit, you see how we got green coming out there? It's still got green paint floating around in here somewhere. So we just keep flushing until that green paint ceases to come out. Okay, and it could be multitude of areas where it's all coming from, but normally it's the last bit in the nozzle. Okay, so going through, I think that'll be close enough. Tiny bit of green there. Technically I would normally flush it once more, but I'm being lazy now and I think it'll be fine. Okay, so that's that done. We can put the colour cut back on. We know it's a nice clean one. Alright, so that's down in there. We know this will be dry because it's lacquers and it's beautiful stuff to work with and it's easy stuff. Okay, so that is done. So what we're going to do is we're going to give a trial of our little matte coat to start with. Which, where are they? Here they are. Okay, so we said before, over on the other side we've got the super matte, okay, which is a great flat coat, no problem at all. Remember, light coat, and we've got the have glass. I'm just finding that you might see it in the light in there, just the sparkle is just a little bit too heavy for my liking. So what we're going to do is just make up a very small amount in a little cup here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to put some super matte in here, and we're going to do a 50-50 mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I'll give me a little thing to work here. Where's my little milliliter thing? I can't even see where it is now. We're going to take 1.5 ml. There we go. Of the matte. Okay, remember to pump the trigger. Or pump your thing just to get every drop out. Okay, so that's 1.5 ml. And what we're going to do, good shake with this stuff because it does separate. We're going to take 1.5 ml from in here. Just a little bit too much. Okay, all right, that's both of those in, and we're just going to suck up and then blow out, and we're going to mix these two together just to get what I'm hoping is a more realistic color, because I'm just finding it's just a little bit too heavy. Okay, because we know without it we don't have that pearlescent type of look to the paintwork, but I'm just thinking it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to put it all in, we're just going to put a little bit in here, and you might see it sparkling on the surface. That's good. Okay, air pressure back down. Okay, blowing through. We've got a spray, we have. Okay, now this is a flat. It's a little bit thicker than the normal paint, so we're going to up the air pressure just a little bit. And then usual thing, what we're going to do is we're going to put a dusty coat down to try and bury the decal. So what you want to do is have it so it's glossy. Okay, so when you look across you can see the gloss, and that way you can see if it's going down okay. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is work this via the camera so you can see this. Okay, so I'm just going to... Okay, if we get it so it's glossy. Now I can't see if you can see this. So we're just putting this down right the way over the decal. And what we're trying to do is just get it to deepen down and to give us a nice flat coat. Okay, so the decal is lost. So you are going to get a little bit of a shine because obviously it has got a natural shine to it, but what you're looking for is that there is no shine to the decal, so everything has a slight shine. So that decal has now lost its shine. Okay, happy with that. Let's flip over. Okay, I'm going to try and do this so you can see it. Okay, as always, make sure you go in all the different directions. Okay, we'll dry that down. Okay, and I must admit it's got that slight sparkle to it still, but I'm actually quite happy with that. So we're just going to go on to the other side now. We're going to try and up it just a little bit, but hopefully now it's got it all down. We still want the changes in tones and the various looks. Hopefully I can touch it somewhere else. Let's try and touch it back here. Then the idea is when we come in with the flat coat, what's going to happen is with the washes and things, when we sand it, we're going to get all these gorgeous textures and everything back in with the model. And there we go. That's our finished look, which actually I think is pretty good. Quite happy with how that's come out now.